Sad faces, tearful eyes, mournful moments. This is the mood of families whose loved ones are among 39 students abducted over 2 weeks ago.
They are failures.
It's a sorrowful moment, especially for the Shamakis, whose father, 61-year-old Ibrahim Shamaki, died of cardiac arrest 15 days after his first daughter, Fatima, was abducted by the gunmen.
They caused hypertension to him, which led to his death. We will never forgive them.
The situation is the same in all the homes we visited, as parents, one after the other, share their feelings with us.
We are here, our children are here. Nothing to do. We cannot help them. Our leaders are not doing anything. They are failures.
When we hear say the kidnapper need $500 million, that day, now porch I begin push that very day.
We set out to dig for the truth about what happened the night of March 11th, 2021. Zachary Mogauri, a higher national diploma HND2 student of Agri-Farm Power Engineering Department of the college, is one of those who witnessed the attack.
11:15, Thursday night. They just enter, start telling us that we should come out. Our guy wants to see us. Which our guy again? We now see men with arms. They are all holding guns. More than 40 of them. Half of them are wearing soldiers' uniform, half of them are wearing black shirts.
He tells us how he managed to escape from the attackers.
I ran out of the guest hostel and I hit one of the bandits on his chest. He fell down. Before he started on his feet, I've already gone far and it's dark. He now shot me twice. And God so kind, the bullet missed me. That was when the school knew that something is going wrong.
Another student, Bala Aminu, gives us his own version.
A guy was shouting, "You guys should run the kidnappers in the college. You guys should run kidnappers in the college." I was like, taking it as a kind of joke. You know, guys sometimes do things like that. So not until I saw the guy coming, struggling with himself, I saw him in blood, bleeding.
At the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization, Afaka, we visit the female hostel where 23 female students were said to have been abducted. It's now under lock and key, but adjacent it is another hostel opened but deserted. Next is the male hostel. It's locked, but through the window we're able to see property left behind by the students. 16 male students had been abducted from here. From the hostel, we're led to see how the attackers invaded the school. It's a walk through a thick forest situated behind the male hostel.
The bandits who came couldn't make their way into the school because of the perimeter fence. So they took time to bore a hole on the perimeter fence. How long it took them, nobody can tell. But one thing is certain, that the 39 students who were abducted from the college were taken through this hole, one after the other.
Friday, 26 March 2021, representatives of the affected parents meet with government officials on the invitation of the state government. The meeting holds behind closed doors. After 2 hours, the meeting ends, but the looks on the faces of the parents doesn't seem like there was a positive outcome.
We met the government and we submitted our appeal to them. That is all what we did to them, but I can assure you we still have no hope.
Now a ghost of itself, the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization, Afaka, is at the verge of losing its students who no longer find the school safe to continue their academic pursuits. It's been 17 days since 39 students of the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization, Afaka, were abducted, but there seems not to be rescue in sight. However, it does appear there might be some moves behind the scene. Anyway, I shall return here, hopefully, when the good news of the rescue of the students breaks. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Yes, indeed. We're all waiting to get that news when they all return, so that at least those parents and the entire country can have something to lift their spirits. Well, this morning, as you may have seen in that welcoming slide, we've got two gentlemen joining us to weigh in on the development in the country. Fuad Oki is an APC stakeholder joining us from our studios in Abuja. And then in Lagos, Dr. Donyo Kukwe, former senior special assistant to the president on media and public affairs. And by the way, he's a medical doctor. He's in politics, so who knows? We might have been using his expertise in COVID now, but he's in politics. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Let me start with you, Mr. Oki. I haven't seen what is playing out. Well, clearly, a lot needs to be done. And many look to the leadership of the ruling party to get the country out of, at least for those who have it, who feel hard done by. And there's always this impression that at the moment, they just can't place your finger on getting it all right. What is going on?
It is quite unfortunate that we have found ourselves in this, what I call, a quagmire. It is a multifaceted issue. And truth be told, that the government is doing some things, but it's not enough. Having said that, we must also agree that the issue of security, it's also not just about the government, it is also about the people. The 21st century security threats and security management, it's a multifaceted issue which requires a lot of intelligence. Intelligence can only be gotten from within, from the community, from the people. We talk about bandits, we talk about Boko Haram, we talk about ISIS. We must also understand that they are not spirits, that they have people from within. And until we begin to look at it as an issue that is affecting us and it's not us and them syndrome, where we see something as, oh, it's government, it's not us, then we'll begin to seriously address the issue. Secondly, we must also agree that part of the problem we have is good governance, lack of opportunities. And I think this government is trying, its best to take us out of this very, very pathetic situation in which we found ourselves. There are several things to it. The global economy is affecting us. A monolithic economy. It's what it's more than anything, besetting our future growth. So government truly need to look, at all of this. But we should not be talking just about the federal government. We should also be asking the states, what are you doing? They are not doing enough, in my opinion. We have the local government that is comatose. The question is it the federal government or the state government that is not allowing growth, that is not allowing local economic, activities and stimulus that will help the average Nigerian, particularly those who live, at the poverty level or below poverty level. This should not ordinarily, against the background that we are operating a federal system, this should not be the federal government's issue alone. It should be, problems that should be looked thoroughly more at the municipal level. But we also need to start holding people accountable. So if we're talking about security challenge and what have you, we must look at this. What is government doing that it's not supposed to do? What is government not doing? Is there a trust between the government and its citizenry? And I think these are the things we need to do. Yes, there is need to do a lot more. Okay. We are not doing enough, but it's not as if this government is not doing anything.
All right, Dr. Kukwe, what's your reading of what's playing out?
Well, I really have a non-partisan view of all these issues. These security matters are bedeviling the country to such an extent that it's almost stifling life out of everybody. So it's everybody's concern. But my attitude, my opinion is that our approach, like my brother over there just said, our approach to it is archaic. To go to a school, I just want to give an example. To go to a school and carry away 300 children will require a minimum of 20, 30 kidnappers at a time. All right? And you can imagine the logistics of their movement. The time it takes for them to gather the children, put them in some sort of, contraption and move them away. It's not less than an hour or 2 hours. And then they move along paths until they get to their destination. Excuse me. Is it impossible for us to actually stop this process somewhere? It is not impossible. And I want to give you an example. Suggestions, Chamberlain. Yeah. Look, when we were in government and there was a crisis in Burma, there was, Boko Haram attacked a village called, I think it's Burma, and burnt out the houses. Several districts were burnt. And there was argument between us and some foreign nations and all that. We got satellite pictures of Burma, and I was able to count the number of houses in every unit that were burnt and the number that were not burnt. If things can be that close, there are satellites, there are commercial satellites now that are available that can picture anything that is, that has the minimum width of 12 inches. A man has more than 12 inches in width. So what I'm saying is that from a room in Abuja, you can monitor a forest in Zamfara and know everybody and see everybody that is moving or anything that is moving that is more than 12 inches. So, look, we just have to deploy money and technology. And, there's no excuse whatsoever. It's not a political matter. The purpose of government and governance is to secure people, and that should take priority. This attempt of backslapping terrorists, bandits, and negotiating with them, giving them money, in exchange, it's not going to work. Because, when some people collect 500 million today and they go away, other people will say, okay, fine. So how did these guys do it? So they will do their own. But we can stop them. But, I've not seen enough seriousness, in any arrangement that we're making that can stop them. We can use satellite imaging. We can use drones, and even, let me tell you, there's no state among those affected states, really, like Kano, Kaduna, Katsina, Zamfara, that has any credible security group. I think, by now, like the other gentleman said, there are some people must be accountable. If I were president today, I will appoint, a commissioner, somebody at the level of a commissioner of police, and I appoint a lieutenant in the army or somebody of that level, maybe a lieutenant colonel or something, and police, other security agencies, they will form the core team of a security committee for the state, and they will be responsible. If kidnapping, you may not be able to stop kidnapping because you cannot cover all the schools at the time. But if you kidnap children, you've got nowhere to take them to, because in less than 20, 30 minutes, forces will arrive, at least encircle the place, and stop this action. Look, banditry, kidnapping can only succeed as long as it continues to be profitable and there are no consequences. No bandit, no kidnapper wants to die or wants to be caught. But the more they can get away with it, the more we will get more people investing in it.
Two major issues you have raised, Doctor. You talked about satellite imaging, for example, and you said this is just a suggestion. So if those things were available over 6 years ago in the previous administration, and is that to say that they're not available now, or they're not in use? What exactly do
My
you think
brother,
is happening?
we are just not engaging. It's not that they were available 6 years ago. They've always been available. You know, look, you know, there are satellites, there are free satellites, commercial satellites that go across Nigeria maybe once or twice in a day. There are many of them. Even we have our own concert, only that what it is designed to do may be slightly different from what we are requesting. And I also know that if we put some more money into the concert, you know, we can adjust it for this particular purpose. I am saying that, look, either it's Sambisa Forest, it is Zamfara Forest, it doesn't mean nothing. You will pinpoint human movements, especially if there are more than 1 or 2 people. You can see people moving and you can stop them on their tracks. Also, what do? Get helicopters, get surveillance helicopters, get attack helicopters. Surveillance helicopters do not fly, they don't need to fly low. They fly very high, but they can take pictures of everything on the ground. So, you know, look, what we're doing is wrong. You know, everybody sleeps with one eye closed, and we're embarrassed on a daily basis. You know, I mean, whenever I see, you know, I even saw a state governor hosting and feasting bandits in the state house. Excuse me, what is going on? You know, even some of us now, bandits may even be a better job than what we're doing currently. We're wasting our time. If you just go on a parade, in 2 hours, and you seize about 200 children, and you collect 800 million for that, is it not for a lifetime? So we've got to, and there are, we don't need, the military yet. We don't need all these archaic defensive and security methods. Look, I told you from Abuja, you see, and I'm telling you, the capacity is available. When I was in government, I was in the DSS office, and I'm telling you, the DSS director told me for a fact that if you are living in Asokoro and you leave your window open, they will get into your bedroom. And they showed me. I saw it. And I also saw a man that left the sixth floor of Hilton Hotel, got into a car hire and got to the airport, and then, by the time he was boarding, we could still see him. This is not new. We have the capacity, and they are not too expensive. It can be done. We're just sleeping. We can stop this in tracks. Right. In 6 months, all this can be 18 of the past. I'm not talking about insurgency. Okay. I'm talking about kidnapping, banditry. It can be stopped.
Let's bring in Mr. Oki on this matter. Well, in light of what Dr. Kukbe has just said, I mean, the president has been to the highest position militarily, so these things, he should know all these things. So one then wonders, what is the missing link? Why are things not happening? Because if we do have the capacity, why then is it not being deployed?
Thank you, Chamberlain. I don't want to dwell, in any blame game. It must seem to be talking about the Fourth Republic foundational era. Unfortunately, he missed the point. He missed the point because he was part of those who refused to properly, put up a strong foundation. Because he's talking about, where we were when they were in government. And it's alluding that to where we are today. I don't think the issue is about, we are not doing this at the DSS office, we have this, we have that. I think the issue at this point in Nigeria is we've all seen the issue. We've seen the challenges. Let us prefer solutions. In preferring solutions, we must situate it properly at the doorstep of government as well as the people. We need to look at the issue of governance, and really that is where our problem is. The talk about we have the capacity, we have this, fine. If we have the capacity, I'm sure technology will not deploy itself. Some people must deploy these technologies, which is alluded to. So we need to ask ourselves very clearly, are we truly ready to secure ourselves? If we do, we must also ask ourselves another question. Are we willing to be our brother's keepers in terms of giving out information which will culminate into intel? Because if we don't do it, my brother, you will just be moving in a cycles.
No, but Mr. Oki, a number of things
clearly.
A number of things come up from what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now, when you say government and the people,
I will get to that.
Okay, but if I could just put in this point. Yeah, but you know, because government can do certain things if and when they want. For instance, government, tax went from 5% to 7.5%. Government is going on with the fuel subsidy, little or no input from the people. And now about security, government can get information from people. Those are things, you can't put something on nothing. If you don't generate that trust for people to come up with information, how do you get it if they don't trust the people they are giving information to?
I alluded to that in my opening, that we must get something very clear. If we're looking at the issue of security, we must first look at the issue of prosperity. The Bible says that the idle hand becomes the devil's workshop. So we must all come together to address the issue of prosperity, and I'm talking about the issue of employment, employability, the so-called empowerment which comes to nothing, the issue of good governance. Where are the opportunities? Are there opportunities? What are the policies of government? It's not just about the federal government. It's not about political parties or playing politics. It's about governance. What are the roles of subnational governments? What are the roles of municipal governments? It's about profligacy. You know, some people call it, you know, what are the cost, or what is the cost of governance? Is it adequate? Is it superfluous? We need to address all of these. So it's not just looking at the technical issue or the issue on the field which has to do with the armed forces. It is holistic. You talk about fuel. Somebody woke up one day and he said 12 was going to be 212 with no explanation whatsoever. So I'm not here, you know, wanting to talk about either it's APC or PDP or this or that, about Nigeria and Nigerians suffering. And we must speak truth to power. I expect Egmont to come out to say, this is where we have found ourselves. These are the issues in practical terms. It's not about, you know, we have this, we have that from your house, you can look at this from, no. It's about what the problems are, what got us to where we are. For crying out loud, what got us to where we are?
If I could just comment, he also talks. Mr. Oki, if you can hear me.
It is not fashionable again to go to school if you can become a novel rich.
Okay, if you can hear me, Mr. Oki, let me just put this in.
We have a misplaced national value. And this is what I think we should all be talking about.
Okay, let me just come in here and just put this in. He talked about some issues, talked about accountability, for example. I mean, I want us to come off this conversation with a sense of, okay, we have pinpointed the challenges. These are the solutions that are being worked on. These are the ones that will be worked on. He talked about accountability, which largely rests with governance. I mean, you have someone who is meant to be in charge of security in a particular area, and you have kidnappings time and again. You have series of killings, and it would seem there's not much repercussion, as it were. So those are some of the challenges he mentioned, but you also bring in the issue of governance. And that might sound vague to some people. You talked about governance, prosperity, which might also be vague to some people because prosperity means different things. You talked about unemployment. So in terms of governance, let's begin with that and try to be specific. Are you saying that the bulk doesn't just stop at the table of the federal government, so we need to blame state governments and the local governments? Or you're saying that the federal government does not have enough capacity to handle these issues? Just what exactly is that issue with governance? And where is the issue?
Thank you. We must start, it must be a bottom-top approach. Let's start from our municipal administrations. What are local governments doing? What are they doing in terms of stimulating the local economy? Today, what you see all over Nigeria, it's, wanting to build modern shopping facilities called markets and displacing people without properly relocating them. You must look at the issue of security. These are all, issues which we must look at. Nigerians must begin to come out clearly to hold their public officers accountable. Not just in terms of physical security, economic opportunities. Subnational government must come out. This is the only country in the 21st century, unfortunately, that is not taking the issue of education, which is again part of developing the human capital. Today, we make as if we are not concerned. I am a product of public school, and I'm sure my mother is also a product of public school, and so many of us. And the question today is, why is it no more veritable for the child of the poor man to be properly educated? Now, having gotten an education, what next? To get employed. Not necessarily in the public sector. Government must come with pro-poor policies, with policies that will help the poor. One thing I know very clearly is even if you do not have what to eat, you must leave your house to pursue where to get something to eat. Public transportation is in comatose. So we must go back and ask questions. We must begin to demand from our governments basic things of life. When the poor man begin to get opportunities that will make him and his children, become somebody, then we'll have started the journey to a nationhood. And that's what I'm saying here.
Yeah, Mr. Key, just the questions that you are asking, a good number of people will be wondering. We should be asking you those questions because it's your party that is in power. But we'll come back to more of that. Let me bring this to Dr. Ukukwe. You spoke about security the other time. Permit me to take a quick trip back there, because without security, just as you said, we're in dire straits. Now, we've been talking about insecurity for so many years now. From Boko Haram to insurgency you talked about earlier, to kidnapping, banditry, all forms of criminality. It raises the question, is it that we don't know what the source of these problems are? Mr. Oki said the other time that before we can talk about poverty, we have to talk about, before we can talk about security, we have to talk about prosperity. Is it that we don't know the source of all of these problems that have shape-shifted over the years?
Now, can I answer you?
Please go ahead, sir. It's your
now, look, Nigerian security issues can be classified under three major headings. One is insurgency that is currently rampaging in the northeast. Second is the issue of banditry that is very, very prevalent in the northwest. And the third is the issue of the herdsmen, which, has engulfed some other parts of the country, including the Middle Belt and the Southwest, and even some part of the Southeast. So these are the three major issues. And once we identify them, they require different approaches to solving them. The former Chief of Army Staff, Major General Buratai, said something and people laughed at him. He said insurgency will take 12 years to solve. Well, I don't agree, but, I think the point he was trying to make, which is the truth, is that insurgency takes a hell of a time for it to go. When we were in government, I said that based on research and history, there's nowhere in the world that have gone through insurgency and it has disappeared in 2 years. The average time or tenure or period it takes for you to overcome insurgency is about minimum of 12 years. The IRA in Britain took 28 years. The Tamil rebels in Sri Lanka took about 18 years. I think Yemen was the one that had about maybe 7 or 9 years or something. So, and why is it so? Because insurgency is an informal warfare. And most countries do not have trained people to cope with informal warfare. You understand? So, it is difficult. There is no battle line drawn anywhere. Go and check the history of battles. Usually, even a long time ago, one army will stand here, another will stand here, they face each other. All right? But now, these insurgents, they have a base. What are the characteristics of insurgents? They usually have a base, probably very remote, like in our own case, Sambisa. Then they have target areas which they attack, infrequently and, with devastation. Then they recruit from the environment. And also they are bordered, or they are controlled or curtailed, or can be curtailed by neighboring countries. So what do? We need to reaffirm our arrangements with Chad, with Niger, with Cameroon. Because if we push the insurgents, that is where they spill over to. So if we have an agreement with them and we work with them, we had a strategy, we had an agreement before, but it has broken down.
Is that why Shaka has been elusive?
It's part of it, because they go in and out of Cameroon or of Chad, you understand? And, Chad is extremely very efficient in curtailing insurgents. I don't know how they do it, but their soldiers seem to be very, very efficient. When they became a problem for Chad, Chad moved in very strongly and they stopped them, all right, and drove them back to Sambisa Forest. So, if we know that is their base, then, like Maiduguri, secure Maiduguri with whatever it will take the army, secure Maiduguri, and from Maiduguri, ensure that, the pockets of other places like, Mayakanduga and all these places that they go, you have enough military presence to drive them back. Then attack them at their base. We must be able to overcome them at Sambisa Forest. And it's not impossible to do so.
All right, let's switch to politics. There's been several conversations in different parts of the country. Well, here's one of such.
It's a righteous cause for Igbo man to become president of Nigeria. It will be well deserved. The importance of zoning in Nigeria is as important for Nigeria's own survival as breathing is to human being.
Well, in addition to that, let me take this to Mr. Oki. We've heard Governor of Benue State say, look, the current challenge may even impede our preparations or even the 2023 general elections. Then we've seen current governor of Ekiti State also say, look, a certain age, we shouldn't allow anyone above that age vie for any, at least the presidency has saying we have suffered enough. So do those things have any bearing from your perspective whatsoever?
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely, and it's very, very, frightful. Number one, I'll take the governor of Benue State. It's speaking the mind of, every Nigerian that is looking at a country where he can truly call his or her country. And without peace, I don't think we'll be able to do anything. And this will take us back to where I started. He's also talking about, insecurity in his state. Again, for me, the question is, what are you doing in terms of social policies? How well are you trying to, take care of the... You look at insurgency or banditry, and you also will need to understand the demography. of the people involved. When you situate that, you now begin to look at where we have found ourselves. Are we even sure that in 2022 we will have a country that can begin to go into thinking about 2023? Number one. Number two, talking about Governor Fayemi's statement that if you are above 60, you don't have a business. And I'm looking at myself. So it's saying that, Fuad, you are cut off. You should not even think about wanting to be Nigerian president because you are above 60. I think it's only trying to get at something in terms of, maybe strength, individual strength and the capacity. But the United States of America has a president that is 78, and in the last couple of days leading to its 100 years in office, he has shown the world that it is not so much about age. It's not so much about age, it's about what you have to offer. So I don't know where it's coming from, but there's a popular saying where I come from, that we just tarry a little while. We will see where the masquerade is coming from, and we will see who's behind the masquerade. And that is my response, to that.
Okay, because I know that he also knows about this analogy that you've given, but he might have put it in a certain context. But let me bring in Dr. Kukwe on this and get his response as well. What do you think of that, Dr. Kukwe?
Well, I think there are three issues. There's the Ohanese president, and then the issue of Governor Fayemi. I've actually issued a statement concerning that statement by Governor Fayemi, my very worthy brother. I also have found out that he may not have actually made that statement, but that an aide of his, made the statement. But be that as it may, it's something that cannot stand. It's not sustainable. It's not democratic. It is also unconstitutional. The Nigerian constitution does not stop anybody's below or above certain age from taking part in electoral process. So I don't think that is sustainable, and it's not something we should really waste our time on. But also, the issue raised by the governor of Benue is very, very germane. The way things are, and unless we get, that's why I'm a bit emotional about these issues of security. Unless we get on top of them, they will disrupt our plans and our programs, and it will be unfortunate. Because how many shocks that can a country, in the lifetime of a generation, how many shocks can it absorb and survive? So it's better if if there's a possibility that if things keep going on like this, there may not be a country to call your own for you to even hold an election. You remember that as some time passed, elections were postponed because certain areas could not take part in them. So if the landscape becomes enlarged and it takes over half of the country, how can we be talking about the election? Then lastly, the issue about the statement from the president of Ohanese. Personally, I have taken a decision that I will never ever in public discuss anything to do with presidency and politics and Igbo people. I've taken that decision, and that was because of a statement I made, when I thought I was speaking the truth, and I was totally, completely bashed and beaten, unfortunately. But be that as it may, truth must always be told. None of us, you see, Nigeria is the Nigerian constitution and the Nigerian geopolitics is skewed, and it is not okay. But it is the constitution and it is the country, and unless you change it, certain things cannot change. I'm going to shock you this morning by telling you something. You know that the North can actually become president. A presidential candidate from the North can become president without any substantial support from the South. And it is constitutional. And I will tell you how. Because if you go for an election, all right, and a northern candidate is backed by majority of people in the North, and because of the number, he will have the numerical advantage, superiority, but he will not have the 2/3 majority. So what does the Constitution say? The Constitution says you now go for a runoff with the person who came second, and then at that point in time, it is simple majority. So again, the man will win simple majority. So tell me. So, these are issues. That's number one issue. Second issue is that, there are six zones in the country. Apart from the north, no zone, including southwest, south-south, southeast, can present a candidate and the candidate will win unless there is a national consensus, an evolution of a national consensus. What is a national consensus? A national consensus is where a majority of the zones of the country have taken a decision that the presidency shall come from this area, just like it happened in 1999. In 1999, for whatever reasons, especially, because of the death of Abiola, many people in the country felt that the Yorubas have been shortchanged and that there was a need to assuage the raw nerves of people in the Southwest. And it was done in such a way. This was also sponsored by the North. It was done, and they are the only people who have that kind of capacity. In this, our present arrangement we have, it was done in such a way that only the two candidates that emerged for election were Yoruba people, Falaye and Obasanjo. So, head or tail, the Yorubas become president. So, the issue is this. If any region, if any zone wants to present a president candidate and sincerely wants that candidate to win, then you must find a process. You must develop a process. You must create a process. You must engineer a process by which a national consensus can evolve. That's
part of the reason why the law didn't want one region to produce a president without the input from other regions, then that's why they talked about the spread, that they must have spread in other parts.
I'm just trying to show you how it can be subverted.
Okay. Well, let's get Mr. Oki as we wind down on this one. Or Mr. Oki, if you can make this in less than 60 seconds, I think that would be great. So tell us now, in the light of what is playing out, of course, I know you heard this before. Why would anyone want to vote the APC? Go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Kukwe has took the honestness and the truth be told. You see, in electoral politics and competition, you will always have those that I call, pretenders, contenders, contestants, and aspirants. And unless the South, comes together, what played out in 93, in 1999, will play out in 2022, not 2023. And this is the reason why today, if we go to any competition, APC seems to be the destination of choice. Because in the land today, there is truly no opposition. What we have today in Nigeria, it's individual people, having, a different or diverging view from what they think the government is doing. And the party is not doing anything, in terms of opposition. And for us to look at the next round of competition and think there really will be competition, it's really not going to be so. APC will continue to be the party of choice. Not that APC has done spectacularly well, but because indeed there is no opposition in the land. And that's my take.
All right, Mr. Fuad Oki, APC stakeholder, and Dr. Doyin Okukwe, former presidential spokesperson. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today on the program. All right, that is how far we can go today. We do thank you all for your comments, which unfortunately we're not able to take them. Apologies, but we'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain. What's up?
I'm Kayode Okikelu.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Do stay safe.